The grand citadel of the Galactic Council hung suspended in the void between stars, a massive structure of crystalline spires and gravity-defying architecture that housed representatives from over 8,000 civilizations. In Chamber 7 Delta, an emergency session had been called. The Dazani delegation had formally requested permission to make first contact with a recently discovered species from a small, unremarkable blue planet in the unfashionable western spiral arm of the galaxy. High Counselor Xerthal, a massive gelatinous being whose translucent body housed a complex network of neural clusters, pulsed with alarming patterns of red and orange. "The request is denied," Xerthal's voice resonated through the chamber. Species 7293C, designation humans, are classified as extreme caution/non-contact under Galactic Ordinance 5.7. Ambassador Kirizon of the Dazani Collective rose from her seat, her iridescent plumage flaring with indignation. The avian descended species was known throughout the galaxy for their technological brilliance and their arrogance. "With all due respect, High Counselor," Kirizon chirped, "the Dazani Collective has reviewed the data on humans and finds the Council's assessment laughably overcautious. These primitives have barely established colonies on their own moon and neighboring planet. Their technological level is centuries behind ours." Several councillors shifted uncomfortably in their environmental chambers. Kirizon continued, projecting holographic images of Earth. "Look at them fighting among themselves, destroying their own biosphere, still dependent on chemical fuels. They're divided by arbitrary geographical boundaries, primitive belief systems, and resource disputes. What possible threat could they pose to the Dazani, whose civilization has existed for 50,000 years?" From the shadows at the edge of the chamber, a voice rasped, "I have seen worlds burn because of such arrogance." All eyes turned to Elder Veital of the Exithkal, one of the oldest living beings in the galaxy. The ancient reptilian rarely attended council sessions anymore, making his presence at this one significant. "The humans," Vartal continued, his scales dust gray with age, "are not to be judged by their technology alone. We have observed 97 similar species in our history. None are as concerning as humans." A murmur rippled through the chamber. "The Council's warning exists for a reason," Ambassador Kirizon, Xerthal said. "Humans display several unique characteristics that, in combination, warrant extreme caution." A holographic list materialized in the center of the chamber. 1. Adaptability. Humans survive in environments ranging from 50°C to plus 50°C without technological assistance. 2. Problem solving. Their technological advancement from rudimentary tools to space travel occurred in less than 10,000 years, an unprecedented rate. 3. Persistence. Humans routinely continue physical tasks long after experiencing pain, exhaustion, and injury. 4. Psychological resilience. They thrive on challenge and become more determined when faced with adversity. 5. Predatory instincts. Combined with high cooperation, they form coordinated groups with complex hierarchies while maintaining predatory aggression. 6. Capacity for both extreme cruelty and extreme compassion, often simultaneously. Most concerning, Elder Veital added, is their inexplicable habit of adopting predators as companions. Any species that looks at a sharp-toothed carnivore and thinks, "I will feed this and let it sleep in my dwelling processes," risk in a way we cannot understand. Kirizon fluffed her feathers dismissively. Psychological profiles can be interpreted many ways. The Dazani Collective remains unconvinced. "We have decided to proceed with first contact, regardless of the Council's outdated caution." High Counselor Exathal's body darkened to deep indigo, a sign of grave concern. "The Council cannot prevent your species from making this mistake, Ambassador, but we urge you to reconsider. At minimum, approach with minimal presence, no military assets, and transparent intentions. "We intend to make an impression," Kirizon replied. "The Dazani First Contact Fleet departs tomorrow." Colonel Mayor Hernandez squinted at the strange objects appearing on the long-range scanner aboard the International Space Defense Station. "Definitely not asteroids," she muttered. "Movement is too coordinated. Trajectory suggests deliberate approach to Earth." She opened a secure channel. "Command, this is Colonel Hernandez. We've got a situation up here." 12 hours later, 27 shimmering Dazani vessels, arranged in a ceremonial formation, meant to showcase their technological superiority, entered Earth orbit. The ships were spectacular golden hulls that reflected sunlight like miniature stars, elegant designs that seemed to defy physics. What the Dazani hadn't counted on was that humans had been detecting alien radio signals for decades and had developed protocols for this exact scenario. By the time the Dazani ships took position, Earth was ready. Ambassador Kirizon was puzzled by the lack of panic in the transmissions from the planet below. According to their research, humans should have been thrown into chaos by the arrival of a superior species. Instead, a simple message was broadcast worldwide: "Unknown vessels, this is United Earth Command. State your intentions. Be advised that approaching military installations or population centers without authorization will be considered hostile action." "How quaint," Subcommander Zell chuckled. "They believe they can dictate terms." Kirizon preened confidently. "Begin the demonstration. Nothing harmful, just enough to show them our technological superiority." 3 smaller Dazani vessels broke formation, descending toward Earth's atmosphere. Their mission was simple: create harmless but impressive light displays over major cities, a traditional Dazani method of establishing their position in first contact scenarios. They didn't anticipate that humans had spent centuries imagining alien invasions in their fiction. They didn't know that humanity had developed contingency plans based on thousands of imagined scenarios. And they certainly didn't expect the barrage of experimental electromagnetic pulses that disabled 2 of the approaching ships before they could react. "Impossible," Zell screeched as the vessels plummeted. "Their technology shouldn't be capable of." "All ships, defensive positions," Kirizon ordered, her plumage flat against her body in alarm. The situation deteriorated rapidly. The Dazani, despite their superior technology, had never faced a species that responded to first contact with coordinated military action. They had expected awe, perhaps fear not immediate, calculated resistance. What followed was a tense 72 hours of orbital standoff. The Dazani discovered that humans had weaponized their orbital debris field, turning their own space pollution into a defensive barrier. Several Dazani ships sustained damage from seemingly random debris that somehow managed to impact at precisely the right angles to damage sensor arrays. When 6 massive Earth vessels lifted from a hidden lunar base, constructed in secret over the previous decade, the Dazani realized their critical error. The humans had been preparing for this moment far longer than anyone suspected. "We must withdraw," Kirizon finally acknowledged, her voice hollow with humiliation. "Send the retreat signal." 6 months later, Ambassador Kirizon stood before the Galactic Council again, her plumage dull and unkempt, her posture submissive. "The Dazani Collective formally requests assistance in negotiating a peace treaty with the humans," she stated, each word clearly painful to pronounce. High Counselor Xerthal pulsed with somber blue patterns. "The humans have made contact with the Council directly. They have expressed concern that the Dazani incursion might have been the first wave of a larger hostile force." A collective gasp rippled through the chamber. "We have spent the last month convincing them otherwise," Xerthal continued. "They have agreed to limited diplomatic relations on their terms. Additionally, they have requested quite reasonably I might add that we share certain technologies as a gesture of goodwill. What technologies? Asked a counselor from the back. Elder Vartal gave a sound that might have been a reptilian chuckle. Faster-than-light travel primarily. It seems they've been working on theoretical models for decades. They merely lack a few key components, which they have specifically identified in their request. Kirizon's feathers drooped further. How did they advance so quickly, from first contact to making specific technological demands? They didn't, Vartal replied. According to our analysis, they have been preparing for extraterrestrial contact for over a century. Their fictional entertainment, which we previously dismissed as primitive storytelling, was actually a vast thought experiment, allowing them to anticipate and plan for thousands of first contact scenarios. High Counselor Xerthul's body shifted to a contemplative green. The Council has voted to reclassify humans from extreme caution to privileged non-interference status. We will establish diplomatic relations, but will not interfere with their development. And we will, most certainly, not underestimate them again. Kirizon looked down at the formal reprimand in her claws. What happens now with the humans? Elder Vartal moved toward the exit, his ancient voice carrying a rare note of excitement. Now? Now we watch. For the first time in 10,000 years, I find myself curious about the future again. These humans, they might just be the most interesting species we've ever encountered.